My name is Natalie Morgan, and I'm 33 years old. 3 days ago, I stood in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, surrounded by 200 guests, art critics and journalists, watching the unveiling of the Morgan collection. 43 paintings and sculptures from my grandfather's private collection, now permanently displayed in a wing bearing his name and mine. The museum director stood at the podium describing the $89 million donation as one of the most significant private art donations in the museum's history. My name was engraved on a bronze plaque. Natalie Morgan, donor, T. Guardian of the Morgan legacy. In the back of the room I saw them. My two older sisters Amanda and Catherine, who'd pushed their dog way past security, stood against the wall in shock. The sisters who'd inherited $8 million each from our parents' estate while I received a rusty trunk they'd called worthless junk. The sisters who'd mocked me at the funeral, who'd told me I was getting exactly what I deserved, who'd laughed when I carried that heavy trunk out of the estate lawyer's office. They weren't laughing anymore. They were staring at the museum displays, at the Monet worth $12 million, at the Degas worth $8 million, at the Picasso worth $15 million, art they'd seen their whole lives in Grandpa's house. Art they'd assumed would be sold and split among them. Art that had never been theirs to claim. RT. That Grandpa had quietly, legally, transferred to me 15 years earlier in a trust they knew nothing about. Before I tell you how a rusty trunk full of letters became an $89 million art collection, please like and subscribe if you enjoy these stories. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Now let me tell you how being dismissed as the family disappointment led to inheriting a legacy my sisters never understood. I'm the youngest of 3 daughters. My sisters Amanda and Catherine are 7 and 5 years older than me, and from early childhood, they were the golden children. Amanda was the achiever, straight A's, Harvard undergraduate, Columbia Law, partner at a prestigious Manhattan firm by 35. Catherine was a socialite married to a hedge fund manager, lived in Greenwich, hosted charity galas, and appeared in society pages. They were everything my parents valued. Success, status, wealth, image. Then there was me. I was the artsy one, the dreamer, the daughter who disappointed them by choosing passion over prestige. I studied art history at a state school instead of an Ivy League, worked at small galleries making $40,000 a year, lived in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn, and drove a 15-year-old Honda. I collected vintage books and spent weekends at museums instead of country clubs. My parents had made peace with having one unsuccessful daughter, but they never hid their disappointment. Natalie could have been something, my mother would say at family dinners as if I wasn't sitting right there. She had good grades. She could have gone to law school like Amanda. But she chose art history. Now she works at a gallery making nothing. It's honest work, I'd say quietly. It's wasted potential, my father would correct. You're 33 years old, making less than our housekeeper. That's not success, Natalie. That's a failure. My sisters would exchange looks across the table. Pity mixed with superiority. They'd succeeded. I hadn't. The family hierarchy was clear. But my grandfather Thomas saw me differently. Grandpa Thomas was my father's father, a man who'd built his wealth through real estate, but who loved art with a passion that transcended money. He'd spent 50 years collecting, not as investment but as obsession. His home was filled with paintings, sculptures, rare pieces he'd acquired through auctions, estate sales, and private dealers. Monet, Degas, Picasso, Renoir, Matisse Story. Museum-quality work that he'd bought because he loved it, not because he would appreciate it. Your sisters see price tags, he told me when I was 18, walking me through his collection. They look at the Monet and calculate the auction value. You see the painting? You understand what Monet was trying to capture. That's rare, Natalie. That's precious. From the time I was young, Grandpa took me to museums, galleries, auctions. This is education, he'd say. Not the kind that gets you into Harvard. The kind that teaches you to see beauty in the world. To understand that some things matter more than their monetary value. We'd spend hours discussing art, history, the stories behind paintings. While my sisters were at tennis lessons and networking events, I was with Grandpa learning about Impressionism, Cubism, the Renaissance. You're the only one who understands, he'd say. Amanda and Catherine look at my collection and see dollar signs. You look at it and see what I see, that's why you're special. When I was 18, Grandpa did something I wouldn't discover until much later. He created a trust transferring ownership of his entire art collection to me. Legal documents filed with attorneys, notarized and witnessed, giving me sole ownership of 43 pieces worth, even then, approximately $40 million. He remained the custodian during his lifetime, keeping the art in his home, but legal ownership belonged to me. He never told me. Never mentioned it. Just quietly protected his collection from being divided and sold by children and grandchildren who wouldn't appreciate it. He died 2 years ago, at age 92. Heart failure in his sleep, peaceful and quick. The funeral was large, over 300 people. My father gave a speech about legacy and family. My sisters spoke about cherished memories. I read a poem about art and beauty that Grandpa had loved. After the funeral came the estate reading. My parents had died 5 years earlier, in a car accident. Their estate, about $18 million, had been divided among us 3 daughters. Amanda got $8 million, Catherine got $8 million, I got $2 million. Because you've proven you can't manage money responsibly, the will had stated. Natalie receives a smaller portion with the hope she'll learn financial responsibility. It had stung, but I'd accepted it. Now Grandpa's estate was being divided. He'd left his house and remaining assets, about $12 million after the house sale, to be split between my father's sister, my Aunt Patricia, and various charities. But there was a separate item. A trunk. To my granddaughter Natalie, the lawyer read, "I leave the trunk currently stored in my attic. She'll know what to do with its contents." That was it, a trunk. My sisters exchanged glances. Amanda actually laughed. A trunk? That's all Natalie gets? That rusty old thing in the attic? What about the art collection? Catherine asked the lawyer. Surely that's being divided among the family. Those paintings are worth millions. The art collection isn't part of the estate, the lawyer said, checking his documents. According to records, Mr. Morgan transferred ownership of his art collection 15 years ago. It's no longer his property to distribute. Transferred to who? My Aunt Patricia asked. The documents indicate a trust, but I don't have details here. You'd need to check with his estate attorney, Mr. Whitmore, who handled that particular transfer. Probably to a museum, Amanda said dismissively. Grandpa was always talking about donating his collection eventually. Well, at least Natalie got her trunk. Hope there's something valuable in it, since she's clearly not getting anything else. The reading ended. My sisters left in their expensive cars, already planning how to spend their inheritance portions from the house sale that day. I stayed to collect my trunk. It was exactly as described. Rusty, old, heavy, padlock. The lawyer handed me a key. Your grandfather left this with his documents? He said you'd need it. I loaded the trunk into my Honda with difficulty. It was heavy, awkward, and yes, it looked like junk. My sisters watched me struggle. Need help? Catherine called out mockingly. Or are you going to manage that yourself like you manage everything? Poorly? I've got it, I said, finally getting it into my trunk. Enjoy your junk inheritance, Amanda said. We'll enjoy our actual money. If you've ever been dismissed by family for not fitting their definition of success, if you've ever been valued less because you chose passion over profit, leave a comment below. Subscribe if you want to hear how a trunk full of junk contained the key to an $89 million legacy. Because what I found inside changed everything. I took the trunk home to my Brooklyn apartment. It sat in my living room for 2 days before I had the courage to open it. Part of me was afraid it really would be junk, that Grandpa's final gift to me would be as disappointing as my sisters suggested. But I knew Grandpa better than that. He'd left me the trunk deliberately. There was a reason. I used the key to open the rusty padlock. Inside the trunk was 50 years of memories. Letters Grandpa had written to my grandmother before she died. Photos from his youth, his marriage, his children's childhoods. My father as a boy. My sisters and me as children. Documents about his business, his real estate deals, his successes. And underneath all of that in a leather portfolio, were papers I didn't understand at first. Legal documents. Trust paperwork. Transfer of ownership certificates. Authentication. Documents for artwork. Letters from attorneys, from appraisers, from insurance companies. And one sealed envelope addressed to me in Grandpa's handwriting. For Natalie. Open only after my death. This explains everything. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a 5-page letter in Grandpa's precise script. My dearest Natalie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I can't be there to see your face when you discover what I've left you. Not the trunk, though the trunk holds precious memories I wanted you to have. But what the trunk represents. The legal documents you're holding show that 15 years ago, when you were 18, and we spent that summer touring European museums together, I transferred ownership of my entire show. Art collection to you. 43 pieces. Paintings by Monet, Degas, Picasso, Renoir, Matisse, and others. Sculptures by Rodin and Giacometti. Drawings by Van Gogh and Cézanne. At the time of transfer, the collection was valued at approximately $40 million. Today, it's likely worth closer to 80 or 90 million, possibly more. All of it is yours. Has been yours for 15 years. I just never told you. I stopped reading, stunned. I owned Grandpa's art collection. The paintings that hung in his house. The Monet in his dining room. The Picasso in his study. They were mine. I kept reading. I transferred ownership to you because you're the only person in this family who understands what these pieces mean. To your sisters, to your aunt, even to your father, they're investments. Assets to be liquidated and divided. To you, they're art. Beauty. History. Legacy. You see them the way I see them. The collection has remained in my home during my lifetime as custodian. But now that I'm gone, you must decide what to do with it. You have several options. You can sell it, and use the money to build the life you deserve. God knows you've struggled financially while your sisters swim in wealth. $89 million would change your life completely. You can keep it and build your own collection, adding to what I've started. You have the knowledge and the passion to be a great collector. Or you can donate it to a museum where it will be preserved and appreciated by generations who understand its value. Whatever you choose, know this. I'm giving you this collection not because I don't love your sisters or your aunt. I love them all. But I love what I've collected more than I love money. These paintings represent 50 years of my life, thousands of hours studying and appreciating art, relationships with dealers and artists, and fellow collectors. I can't let this collection be broken up and sold piece by piece to the highest bidders who see only investment potential. It needs to stay together. It needs to be protected by someone who understands its cultural value beyond its price tag. That someone is you. You've been dismissed by your parents and sisters your whole life for choosing art over ambition. They've called you a disappointment, a failure, someone who wasted potential. But I see you differently. You chose meaning over money. You chose to spend your life surrounded by beauty instead of pursuing wealth. You chose to work in galleries making modest salaries because you love art, not because it pays well. That's not failure. That's integrity. That's understanding what matters. So this is my gift to you. Not just financial security, though that's certainly part of it, but validation. Proof that your choices were right. That your passion had value. That you weren't the family disappointment. You were the one who understood what I was really building. Take care of this collection, Natalie. Protect it. Honor it. Show your sisters that there are things more valuable than the money they've spent their lives chasing. I love you. I'm so proud of you. And I trust you with my life's work. All my love, Grandpa Thomas. I sat on my apartment floor crying, holding the letter, surrounded by legal documents proving I owned $89 million in art. My grandfather had seen me, had valued me, had entrusted me with his greatest treasure because he knew I'd understand what it meant. The next morning I called Martin Whitmore, Grandpa's estate attorney. Mr. Whitmore, I'm Natalie Morgan. My name, Cal? Grandfather left me a trunk with documents about an art collection. I need to understand what these papers mean. Ah, Natalie, he said warmly, I've been expecting your call. Your grandfather and I worked on that trust transfer 15 years ago. The documents in the trunk are copies of the legal ownership transfer. The originals are in my office. The collection was transferred to you in 2010. You've owned it since you were 18, though your grandfather retained custodianship during his lifetime. So, it's really mine? I asked. All of it, he confirmed. 43 pieces currently stored in your grandfather's house, which has been sold. You'll need to arrange for the collection to be moved to a secure location. I recommend a climate-controlled art storage facility while you decide what to do with it. The collection is insured for $89 million. That policy will transfer to your name. I arranged for the collection to be moved to a private art storage facility in Manhattan. It took 3 days, and cost $30,000 just to transport and properly store everything. I spent weeks visiting the facility, sitting with the paintings, understanding what I now owned. The Monet was beautiful, luminous, everything I'd remembered from Grandpa's dining room. Picasso was bold and challenging. The Degas dancers were graceful. Each piece was a masterwork. But I also understood what Grandpa had said. This collection shouldn't be broken up. It represented his life, his vision, his love of art. Selling it piece by piece felt wrong. Keeping it for myself felt selfish. Then I remembered what Grandpa had taught me. Great art belongs to the world. We're just temporary custodians. 6 months after Grandpa's death, I called the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I have a collection I'd like to discuss donating, I told the curator. 43 pieces, including works by Monet, Picasso, Degas, and others. I believe they should be kept together and displayed publicly. The museum sent their director of collections, Dr. Sarah Chen, to the storage facility. She spent 4 hours examining the pieces. Ms. Morgan, this is extraordinary. A complete private collection of this quality is incredibly rare. The monetary value is significant, but the cultural value is immeasurable. These pieces belong together. They tell a story. That's what my grandfather believed, I said. He spent 50 years building this collection. He left it to me because he knew I'd protect it. I think protecting it means sharing it with the world. We negotiated terms. The collection would be donated to the Met. It would remain together, displayed in a dedicated gallery space. The gallery would bear my grandfather's name and mine. Thomas and Natalie Morgan Gallery. The donation would be announced publicly with a ceremony and press coverage. The museum would handle insurance, conservation, and security. The collection would be preserved forever. The donation was valued at $89 million. I had received the tax deduction, which was substantial. But I wasn't doing it for taxes. I was doing it because it was right. My sisters heard about it 3 days before the public announcement. I don't know how. Maybe someone at the museum mentioned it. Maybe a journalist reached out for a comment. But Amanda called me, her voice cold. Is it true? Did you donate Grandpa's art collection to the Met? Yes, I said. Donated a collection valued at $89 million? Yes, that collection was supposed to be sold and divided among the family, Amanda said. It was worth almost $100 million. We should have each gotten $30 million. You stole it. 9 nines. I didn't steal anything, I said calmly. I donated a collection that belonged to me. That's been mine for 15 years. That Grandpa transferred to me legally in 2010. That's impossible, Catherine's voice joined. She was on another line. Grandpa wouldn't have given you $90 million in art when you got $2 million from Mom and Dad. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, I said. Grandpa didn't see price tags. He saw art. He gave the collection to someone who'd appreciate it for what it is, not for what it's worth. You're lying, Amanda said. You must have manipulated him. Convinced him to sign documents when he was old and senile. We're going to challenge this. We're going to sue. You can try, I said. But the transfer happened 15 years ago when Grandpa was 77 and had a completely sound mind. There are multiple witnesses, legal reviews, and documentation. It's ironclad. The collection was mine. Now, it's the museum's. There's nothing to challenge. You're a selfish bitch, Catherine said. You could have shared it. Instead, you donated it for attention and credit. For your name on a plaque. For recognition you don't deserve. I donated it because it's what Grandpa would have wanted, I said. Because great art belongs to the world. Because keeping it for myself or letting it be sold and scattered would have dishonored everything he built. If you can't understand that, you've proven exactly why Grandpa didn't leave it to you. I hung up. They called back 17 times. I didn't answer. 2 days before the museum ceremony, they showed up at my apartment. I didn't let them in. Natalie, please, Amanda said through the door. We need to talk. We need to work this out. That collection should have been shared. We're family. Family shows up before there's $90 million involved, I said through the closed door. You mocked me at the estate reading. You called my inheritance junk. You laughed at me for getting a trunk while you got money. You've spent your whole lives treating me like a failure because I chose art over wealth. Now you're mad because the art you dismissed is worth more than all the money you've chased. You don't get to care now that you realize what you missed. We'll contest the donation, Catherine threatened. We'll tell the museum the art was stolen. We'll make this so ugly you'll regret it. Do what you want, I said. The museum has verified ownership. They have 15 years of legal documentation. The donation is happening. Now leave my property or I call the police. They left. But they showed up at the Met ceremony anyway, pushing past security, standing in the back, watching the unveiling. Watching the museum director praise the Morgan collection. Watching Dr. Chen describe the cultural significance. Watching my name being unveiled on the bronze plaque next to Grandpa's. Watching me accept recognition for a donation that proved I'd been right all along. That art had value beyond money. That meaning mattered more than wealth. That the family disappointment had inherited the family's greatest treasure. After the ceremony they tried to approach me. Museum security stopped them. I'm her sister, Amanda argued. She'll want to see us. No, I won't, I said, walking past them toward the private reception. You're not invited. This event is for people who actually appreciate art. Not for people who see $90 million in paintings. You wouldn't understand what's being celebrated here. You never did. I walked away. Behind me, I heard Catherine say, this should have been ours. All of it. She stole it. But I hadn't stolen anything. I'd been given something precious by someone who knew I'd treasure it. And I'd honored that gift by sharing it with the world. That's not theft. That's stewardship. That's understanding what legacy actually means. The donation made news. Art publications, business journals, even mainstream media covered it. 33-year-old gallery worker donates $89 art collection, the headlines read. Largest private art donation this year. Morgan collection finds permanent home at the Met. My sisters saw every article. Every mention of my name. Every photo of me at the ceremony. Every description of the collection they'd assumed would be divided and sold. They'd expected their inheritance to be substantial. Instead, I'd donated it all, and they'd gotten nothing. 3 weeks after the ceremony, Amanda showed up at the gallery where I worked. Natalie, can we talk? Please? I looked at her standing in the small gallery where I made $48,000 a year, wearing a suit that probably cost $5,000, carrying a bag worth more than my monthly rent. I asked. What's left to say? I want to apologize, she said. Catherine and I were wrong. We were upset and we said terrible things. We accused you of stealing when you didn't. We're sorry. You're sorry that I donated $90 million you thought you deserved, I said. Not sorry for how you've treated me? My entire life. Not sorry for calling me a failure and a disappointment. Not sorry for mocking me at the estate reading. Just sorry you missed out on money. That's not fair, Amanda protested. It's honest, I said. You and Catherine have looked down on me since we were children. I wasn't Harvard material. I wasn't successful. I didn't marry rich. I didn't understand what mattered. Well, turns out I understood exactly what mattered to the one person whose opinion I actually valued. Grandpa saw something in me you never bothered to look for. We're family, Amanda said. Doesn't that count for something? Family counts when you treat people like family, I said. When you value them for who they are, not what they can give you. You only want to be my sister now because I had something valuable that you missed. For 33 years you didn't value me at all. Why should one donation change that? Because you're our sister, Amanda said weakly. I'm the sister you dismissed as a failure, I corrected. The one you laughed at for receiving a trunk. The one you've spent your life comparing unfavorably to yourselves. The fact that the trunk contained documents to $90 million in art doesn't change how you treated me. It just shows you were wrong about who the successful one was. Amanda left. She and Catherine tried reaching out several more times. Each time with the same message. We want to reconnect. We want to be part of your life. We want to repair our relationship. Each time I said no. Because I knew what they really wanted. They wanted access to whatever else I might have. To whatever other successes might come. They wanted to rewrite history where they'd been supportive sisters instead of dismissive ones. They wanted to claim connection to someone who'd donated $90 million, whose name was on a museum plaque, who'd proved that art had value they'd never understood. But they couldn't have that. Because relationship isn't rewritten when it becomes convenient. It's built over years of showing up, supporting, valuing. They'd spent 33 years showing me I wasn't good enough. I'd spent 2 years showing them that Grandpa disagreed. I'm 33 years old. I still work at the gallery making $48,000 a year. I still live in my small Brooklyn apartment. I still drive my 15-year-old Honda. The tax deduction from the art donation was substantial, about $30 million that I can use over the next years. But I haven't changed my life dramatically. I've put money aside for retirement, donated to causes I care about, helped fund struggling artists. But I didn't want wealth. I wanted validation. And I got it from the person whose validation mattered. My sisters have their $8 million inheritances. Their successful careers. Their wealthy husbands. Their society standing. All the things they valued. All the things that made them feel superior to me for years. And I have my name on a museum plaque next to my grandfather's. Recognition for protecting something beautiful. For honoring a legacy. For understanding what he was really building. Every time they visit the Met, which they probably never will because art was never really important to them, they'll see that plaque. They'll see our names. They'll see the collection they dismissed as just paintings. They'll see proof that the family failure understood something they never did. That legacy isn't about money. It's about meaning. I think about Grandpa's letter often. About how he saw me when nobody else did. About how he protected his collection by giving it to someone who'd protect it in turn. About how he validated 33 years of choosing passion over profit, meaning over money, art over ambition. He gave me $90 million in paintings. But his real gift was the message that came with them. You were right. They were wrong. You understood what mattered. The paintings were just proof. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been dismissed for choosing passion over profit, if you've ever been told your values are worthless, leave a comment. Subscribe if you believe that legacy is about meaning, not money, and that sometimes the family disappointment is actually the one who understands what really matters. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being different doesn't mean being wrong. It means seeing value others miss. Remember, success isn't always measured in salary or status. Sometimes it's measured in whose name is on the museum plaque. Sometimes it's measured in who was trusted with protecting beauty. Sometimes it's measured in who understood that $89 million in art was worth more preserved and shared than sold and divided. My sisters got their money. I got Grandpa's trust, his collection, his belief that I'd do the right thing. And when the choice came between keeping $90 million for myself or honoring what he built, I chose honor. Not because I'm noble, but because that's what you do when someone sees value in you that others missed. You prove them right. You protect what they gave you. You honor their trust by being trustworthy. Grandpa gave me his life's work because he knew I'd treat it as art, not assets. I proved him right by giving it to a museum where millions will see it, appreciate it, learn from it. That's worth more than any amount of money. That's legacy. That's what my sisters will never understand. And that's why Grandpa chose me.